There are a lot of problems with oak trees that we've been seeing this season and over many seasons. There's a lot of things that just being an oak tree in Nebraska that it'll end up facing. Some of these are environmental, things like herbicide damage, things like chlorosis, which is actually a nutrient deficiency, and some of the other ones might be things like insects or diseases attacking the tree. Now, if you've been out and looking at your oak tree and you notice that the leaves are kind of misshapen, they're almost curled down in a way or curled in a weird way, a lot of times we attribute that to herbicide damage. That's something caused likely by growth regulator type herbicides volatilizing and drifting off target and then impacting those leaves. Generally, you'll see this shortly after the leaves emerge in the spring if you're paying close attention. There really isn't a lot that can be done for this. I would say limit the use of herbicides in your landscape as much as possible to kind of limit those impacts. But aside from that, as long as the tree doesn't get hit too hard with that and it's in healthy shape otherwise, it should recover. There is a condition known as chlorosis as well. You might notice this. You'll see a lot of pin oaks around Lincoln and especially in other parts of Nebraska as well, turning kind of a yellow lime green color almost, with the dark green still being in the vein. This is actually caused by a nutrient deficiency, usually a result of the tree not being able to take up enough iron, and it's actually because our soils are way too alkaline for some of these species. We usually recommend not planting red oaks if you have alkaline soils, so go with something in the white oak group will generally do a lot better. And if you do have this on a mature tree, there are different things you can do, different soil amendments or treatments of iron that's actually soluble that the tree can uptake and utilize. You might also notice, especially this time of year, some insect damage on the tree. When we're starting to move into the fall now or into the late summer, we'll generally see a lot of lace bugs, which are tiny insects with piercing, sucking mouthparts. Their backs kind of look like a lace pattern, and they'll be feeding on the leaves, kind of causing the leaves to turn more of a blotchy color. They won't quite look as fresh as they did in the spring. Usually not a big issue as long as your tree's healthy. It's a pretty common occurrence, and the tree's getting towards the end of the season anyway. Another insect that we do see from time to time, we saw a lot of it last year. Not so much this year, although I have seen a few trees around, and that's the oak twig girdler. It's a small insect, actually closely related to emerald ash borer, but a native species that girdles the end of the branch tip and ends up killing off some of those branch tips. And some of the years it might be quite severe. You might notice a lot of your branch tips in your oak, tends to be red oak again, turning brown, and they'll eventually fall off. Not something to be concerned about, not really something that can be treated for, but I would say just keep your tree in as healthy of condition as possible. Lastly, one thing that we've just been seeing a lot of is damage to trees from the kind of hard environmental conditions we've had over the last winter. Last fall and the previous fall before that, we had a lot of hard freezes really early on in the season where temperatures dipped into the single digits in late October, early November, and that can cause dieback on trees if they're not prepared for that. And you might also see some bark damage from that, and sometimes that can take years to show up. So just be aware that that is happening, and that might be attributable to some of the damage you've been seeing. So with your oak trees, I would say, just be out there taking a look at things, keep an eye on them, and try to note when the damage is occurring too. Be keeping a close eye on them if you are noticing damage. Is it something that's affecting the whole tree? Is it occurring at a certain time of the year? And does it really seem to be harming the tree in any way? And that'll usually help with diagnosis and to tell you if it's something you actually need to be concerned about.